Hello and welcome to a gameplay of Steelsong versus An-Noi-ing Items. So this is following a deck tech that I did for the An-Noi-ing Items deck. I called it An-Noi-ing Items or Annoying Combo, which is more of like an aerial item storm deck. Now it's Chapter 2 upgrades, or not Chapter 2, Rise of the Floodborn upgrades. So this matchup would be against Steelsong, which is a competitive tier tournament winning deck. It's the only one we had available for the night that we could record, so not an ideal matchup since mine is more on the casual level of the power scale, whereas Steelsong is like a tournament winning deck. But it is what it is, and it would be curious to see how this deck stacks up and see what we can change to make it more competitive should we need to. But this will be a decent matchup. I have actually not played against Steelsong going into this game, so I'll kind of go over my thoughts as I kind of read up on what Steelsong is capable of doing throughout the match. On turn 1, I'm going to play a Popsicle to draw a card, so a good start. Whereas Brad, playing Steelsong, is going to ink a Simba and play a Cinderella. So I expected that new card to show up in Steelsong. We'll be interested to see what songs were added to support it. But you could probably guess that things like the Storm Rage on are going to be in there. On turn 2, I'm going to play a Noi Orphan Thief, for which I named the deck. So a good anti-control card, has resist and ward, as long as I have an item in play, making it pretty hard to deal with. And he plays a Simba Exerted in quests for 1 here, which is totally fine because now Noi is producing 2 lore per turn. I'm actually winning the race with this hard to deal with card on my side. So I'm going to go ahead and quest for 2. So already going out in the lead here. And I'm going to ink a Simba Future King, one of my looting cards, as we call it in Magic, looting, drawing and discarding. I'm going to play a The Prince Never Gives Up. So I'm going to give Bodyguard just in case. I don't think that the Steelsong deck is particularly aggressive through the early to mid game. So I imagine it's leaning, like the Chapter 1 version, leans more on actions and songs in order to deal with my board. So feeling pretty good here with both my characters having resist. I feel like a Grab Your Sword is going to be pretty irrelevant right now. So Brad is going to do a Aerial Spectacular Singer to hit it. Yep, there we go. Let the Storm Rage on. Glad to see that that's what he hit, because I feel like that card is pretty bad against me. Both of my characters have resist, so it effectively does 1 damage to draw him a card. Which, the fact that it draws a card isn't terrible. That means he can try and dig for a better answer, should he need to sing. But instead, he just decides to quest there to try and keep up. So I'm generating 4 lore to his 3 now, so still having a pretty good lead. And still, he doesn't have anything that has more than 2 strength, so I can pretty freely quest here and just keep applying, getting as much value out of these 2 characters as possible. I did play another Popsicle, and I'd sit here and debate a little bit here. I'm going to ink a Frying Pan and play this Judy Hopps, I believe is going to be. Yeah. So I debated a little bit in my mind. I wasn't sure if if this list runs Benja, and there is a potential to get blown out here by going down to 1 item, exposing myself to a Benja, which would deactivate, of course, Noise, Ward, and Resist. So we'll have to see how that goes. I'm pushing more towards the late game now. I'm reaching 10 to 14 lore, which is exactly where I want to be. And there it comes. In fact, he does play Benja, which breaks my last item, which deactivates Noise, Ward, and Resist, which now I'm in a little bit of a tough spot here. I'm still feeling okay because of my the Prince being protective, but he's going to use a Strength of the Raging Fire, which now does 4 damage. Damage equal to the number of characters he has, which is 4, which actually knocks out my Prince, which is pretty tough to see. And he's going to follow that up by using Simba to defeat Noise. So that was a pretty tough turn. Should have thought a little bit more about whether or not Strength of the Raging Fire is played in that deck. Now that I know, because I know that deck goes wide with like Stitch, Rock Stars in the late game, so it makes sense that Strength of the Raging Fire is something that Cinderella would want to sing. I'm going to play a Nick Wild and get a Popsicle back and play that Popsicle to just kind of recover board state, keep a lot of 2 lore characters out in play. And I'm looking over there, and once again, he doesn't have a character that has more than 2 strength, so I'm feeling comfortable questing with Judy Hopps. It's going to require 2 of his characters to defeat my 1, and he's going to take a little bit of damage doing it. So, not a terrible situation for me to be in. I'd really rather be about 10 to 12 lore right about now, because that's when I can comfortably try and win the game with an aerial combo. He's going to shift his Cinderella into Cinderella Stouthearted, and that is bad news. Bad news bears, because I don't really have any way to deal with that card at all. He's going to follow up using that strength, or let the Storm Rage on to put 2 damage onto Judy Hopps, and that'll allow his Stout-Hearted to challenge a readied character. That's her ability. So she's able to defeat the Nick Wilde, and then he's gonna send in his Simba and trade with the Judy, leaving me with no board and him with a Cinderella. So I'm kind of in a little bit of a panic mode at this point. I don't have any way to deal with that Cinderella. Like, I don't have a Let the Storm or Let It Go, which would be pretty important here. So I'm going to try and slow him down, and what I'm going to need to do is probably set up a situation in which I can try and have multiple characters out in play, and maybe an Eye of Fates in order to recoup some of these losses. And then, while the worst part is that Cinderella quests for, I think, 3. It's hard to see with the lighting in this shot right here. I think it quests for 3, yeah. So really, delaying him from questing with that is buying me extra turns in this game. He's going to quest there and going all the way to 8. So I need to put some more threats out that he's going to want to challenge. And a Fabersham a great card against that Cinderella because he has 6 willpower. So Cinderella cannot one-shot Hiram. So I'm also going to play a Judy Hopps and pop that Pan to draw a card. So now I have 2 threats on board, and one of them can't be defeated by the Cinderella, unless, of course, he has a damage-based spell. He's going to basically hard cast, as we say. He's going to play a Stitch non-shifted, and then he's going to sing a Let the Storm Rage on to put 2 damage. So he could defeat Flaversham here, but instead he's going to use his Stout-Hearted to defeat my other character. And I said, hey, that takes 2 damage. He's like, no, it doesn't. It has resist 2. And I was like, good lord, I am so dead on board to this Cinderella. Like, I'm thinking about how all the tricks I have with Ariel, to keep her unchallengeable are defeated by the fact that Cinderella can challenge through all that. So, kind of a bad matchup in this situation. So, I'm going to play a Noi as well, and then also an Eye of Fates. And then follow that up with a Last Cannon. I'm trying to think if there's a way that I could Last Cannon. It'd probably involve an Ariel surviving long enough to support up a character in order to take down that Cinderella, but it's unlikely to happen at this point. I think this one's going to be kind of a loss. The 2 blowouts, the back-to-back, losing to that Benja, most of my board state, and then this Cinderella is probably going to be, it's going to be curtains for me. But I do get a Eye of Fates out, so I'm hoping I can lean on that to try and eke out a little bit of extra lore and maybe pull something off. But he's going to do a flat out here, as is expected. Once a Rockstar lands, he's just going to be able to play all of his 1-drop characters, exert them, and draw cards, turning them into better cards effectively. So they all turn into cantrips, which is pretty insane. And he's going to shift one of them into a larger one. So he has game on board at this point, and I'm pretty far away from winning this game. So looking at what I can possibly play here, it doesn't look like there's any kind of board state in which I could pull this one out. If I had an Ariel in play, I might be able to challenge down some characters and knock out a few. But I'm looking at the board, and there's no real combination of what I have in deck and my current board state to win this one. So I'm going to concede this match. So now I learned a little bit about this Steelsong matchup. I got to watch out for Cinderella. There's not much I can do about that, honestly, in this list. It's just, either try and knock out that Cinderella before she can be shifted into. Pray that it's a 2 of instead of like a 4 of. I'm sure it is not a 4 of in that list. Maybe it is. I don't know. But we'll go to game 2 now. So we're going to start game 2, and I'm going to take the play again. So do some hard mulliganing this time around. Did not get an Ariel that game, and that might have been helpful, but honestly, it would not have been that great because one of Ariel's strengths is being able to play an item to ready her so she can't be challenged by any characters. But Cinderella Stout-Hearted does not care at all about that. And of course, there's a decent amount of removal. I don't know if the Steelsong still plays Smash, but it definitely plays Strength of the Raging Fire, which can knock out Ariel, so I have to be wary of that. I'm going to do a turn 1 nothing, and then he's going to do a turn 1 Stitch. I'm going to do a turn 2 Simba Future King and Popsicle. So 2 1-drops to recover from that kind of bad start that I had a little bit there, which is okay. He's going to ink a Cinderella. That is good. That's good news. I'm happy to see that. He's going to turn 2 Simba, giving some protection. Don't know why. I mean, whatever. There's no reason to not exert it. There's nothing that's going to happen to that character that I can put out. I'm also going to put out a Bodyguard here and quest for 1 to match him. I'm now racing him 3 lore to his 2 lore production per turn with a chonky 1/4 Bodyguard. He's going to ink a World's Greatest Criminal Mind. I think he realizes my deck doesn't run anything that could possibly ever get targeted. He's going to use a Let the Storm Rage on against that Simba, probably just because he needed to draw a card, honestly. That was such a low value target, but I'm sure he's like, maybe he might be struggling with uninkables or something in his hand. All right, so Ariel is in play now. So now I'm feeling a little bit better. That as long as he doesn't just straight up remove it immediately, which he won't be able to with Strength of the Raging Fire quite yet. He's going to shift into a Stitch Rockstar and Quest out. So that's a earlier Rockstar. That's kind of something I need to be a little worried about. But if he spends a lot of his turn just playing out 1-drops, I think I might be able to, kind of eke an advantage over him and try and get closer to that game-winning board state, which is around like the 12 to 14 lore is where I want to be. So I am able to play an Eye of Fates. So first I quest with Ariel, play Eye of Fates to ready her. Then I put Eye of Fates on Ariel and quest with her. Now I play a Scepter of Arendelle to ready her and quest one more time. So it's a 7 lore turn, which is a pretty good chunk there. And I'm at 10. I really want to be around 12 to 14, and then an Ariel can win the game in 1 turn pretty easily. So he's going to play a Grab Your Sword. He's going to end up not being able to sing that. He's just going to straight up deal damage to my characters. And then he's going to challenge with his Big Stitch my Prince, and then use his Simba to finish off Ariel. So realizing that I am close to winning the game already, he decided that he needs to take some time to slow me down, which is pretty good play. I'm going to play in a Hiram and pivot to just rebuilding real quick here. So Hiram going to come into play, pop one of my items and draw 2 cards. And looking at my board, I'm going to play a Last Cannon. So I must have drawn pretty poorly there. Not able to really rapidly rebuild off of that. A Last Cannon is not really relevant. Maybe just something more for Hiram to chew on. So he's going to play an Ariel, Spectacular Singer, to hit a Whole New World. And that is a little bit worrisome because when he's going to want a Whole New World, and he doesn't right now, because you really shouldn't play a Whole New World until you have all your ink available. So he's waiting until next turn when he'll have all of his ink available. If you Whole New World it here, he just give me free new 7 cards to play before he could play his. So he's going to want to sing a Whole New World. So what I'm worried about here is I don't want him to do that while he has a Stitch Rockstar in play. So I'm going to end up burning 2 Storm Rage on. I'm going to ink a Hercules and do another Let the Storm Rage on to knock out that Stitch Rockstar. Because when he does do a Whole New World, ideally what he wants to do is play all of his 1-drops so he can flood the board with like 6 characters and then also draw cards off of each of those characters so that he has a full grip and a huge board state at the same time. So I wanted to make sure that he didn't have both of those advantages here. So obviously I can't stop him from Whole New Worlding and then being the first to play his new cards. But I was able to slow him down. And in fact, he takes a turn to reset that board state I just mentioned. So he's playing out another Rockstar. So I'm not going to be able to stop that one, but he did give me a free 7 cards. And he wasn't able to do a whole lot with them, other than reset the board to how it was before I blew up his Stitch Rockstar. So that's putting me in an okay spot. I'm going to play out as many characters as I can my turn because I'm at 14, and that's the sweet spot. That is I can win the game next turn, not very obviously, because of how much Ariel can quest in 1 turn. So I'm really just flooding the board. I also want multiple targets for an Eye of Fates because it's likely that he drew removal and then he's going to be able to knock out the Ariel. So it's one of those things where if they have it is what they say. You got to make him have it. You got to make him have removal. So he's going to have to spend some amount of resources to remove Ariel. And then hopefully I can pivot to winning the game with just Eye of Fates and the rest of the team. So he's going to, okay, here we go. Cinderella 1, exert to draw a card with his Rockstar. And then this is exactly how I expected it to play out in the end state, is a flood of characters in the late game that allow him to basically, he's ankling to make 13 lore next turn to win the game. So, and all he's doing is filling his hand up with alternative win conditions. So he's in a really good spot as well. But I think I can win the game if he just expends all of his resources into making sure that he makes 13 lore next turn. I'm probably going to win the game But I know Brad's a little smarter than that, so I don't think that's all he's going to be doing for his turn. So he does play a couple lanterns. He's threading them in with his ink, and I know that frustrates some people, but we were Magic the Gathering players, so we think of those as mana rocks, as lands. They produce mana. He's going to play another Simba and another lantern, drawing more cards. And then he's going to, there he goes. So he did, of course, had to remove. He probably had it the whole time. Strength of the Raging Fire is able to blow up that aerial. So now I have to pivot to making 6 lore. I only have 3 characters in Eye of Fates. I can only produce 4 lore with my current board. And of course, Brad has game on board. I either have to win here or I lose immediately. So I did have another Eye of Fates in my hand, so I could produce 5 lore here. So I'm going to put both the Eye of Fates onto my Hiram, so he quests for 3. And I'm going to use my Hiram to pop and just pray that I can find another Eye of Fates. And then I can quest. So I'm able to ink it, and there you go. I did, in fact, find another Eye of Fates off of that. So able to use my last 3 characters to quest for 3 more lore to go to 20. So a pretty good showing there, and that aerial was able to generate like 5-7 lore that game. And then was a hot target for removal. So we're going on to game 3 of this Steelsong Noi matchup now. So a pretty interesting matchup. I do think, you know, I had mentioned in the deck tech, I don't think this Noi items list is very competitive. I wouldn't take it to a moneyed tournament that has big prize pool. It's just more of a fun sit back and do my own thing without having to care about what my opponent's trying to do kind of deck. And that's kind of, that was the build request. It was for, you know, the Disney adult, my co-host, who's not very familiar with TCGs, not really familiar with understanding like complex board states. So I was like, all right, let me try and build a deck where you just got to focus on your own thing and ignore what your opponent is doing. All right, I'm going to turn 1 a Simba, Future King, and pass. Brad doesn't do anything on his turn, so it comes back to me, and I'm able to quest with that Simba, which is pretty unusual, but I'll take it, you know? That's one more lore. And a Cyril Knight in Training, just dig, dig, dig. I'm playing all these cards to try and find, you know, dig deeper into my deck and try and find those aerials as fast as possible. So he's going to ink a Simba to play a Lantern to play a Stitch New Dog. So, you know, quite possible that he's angling for a real early, rock star Stitch Dog. Not too worried about it though. I'm able to play The Prince Never Gives You Up. So that puts me in a pretty good spot, although I'm a little vulnerable to a Grab Your Sword. So hopefully that doesn't come, because it'll wipe out my backfield. He's going to shift into that Stitch Rockstar, which is pretty early, but that might just mean he has got a huge grip of 1-draw. Oh, there you go. He's going to sing A Whole New World. That's pretty early, and that's not going to be good. So this sets up that same board state I was worried about last game. So he's going to be able to play every 1-drop he draws. He's going to be able to play that and then also draw a card off of it, which means he's going to quickly run away with this game. So now I'm trying to race as fast as I can towards 20, because he's going to take over this game in probably about 2 to 3 turns. I'm going to put an aerial, which is good. I can bait out, maybe have him expend some of his resources on removal and slow him down, but we'll see how this turn goes. With just 4+1 ink, let's see, he's going to do, all right, the Queen drawing a card. I'm a little worried about seeing what the shifted Queen is capable of doing against my deck. That +4 strength to hit one of his characters and -4 to one of mine. The -4 to mine isn't really that relevant, but being able to like knock out a Prince fairly easily is a little scary. So he only played 2 characters and a Tinkerbell, and then he's going to play a Strength of the Raging Fire to knock out that Prince. That seems to be working really well for him. I'm surprised how well that card works. It's one of those cards where you have to be a little far ahead for it to be good. But that deck with the Stitch and the 1-drops, it does make it kind of easy to play that card. You just flood out a bunch of characters and sing it for free. Seems like a really good combo. All right, so I'm going to play another one and try and reset board state, and then I'm going to try and do a little bit of work with Ariel here. I expended a lot more resources than I wanted to on the Prince as opposed to Ariel. Probably means I didn't really have a whole lot of items in my hand, unfortunately. So we're going to go ahead and Popsicle. Yeah, in fact, I didn't even have a second item. I couldn't even quest a second time with Ariel, which is pretty disappointing. But I want to leave her open so there's an opportunity for me to try and quest real hard next turn. He's going to shift a Tinkerbell. He's going to do 1 damage to my board. And then he's going to challenge and defeat the Prince, unfortunately. So, you know, I guess I probably could have seen that coming. I don't think there's any way to go around that one, though. So that's going to end up being kind of a blowout there. It's a 2-for-1. He's able to knock out, or 2-for-0 technically. He hasn't lost. Well, 2-for-1. He shifted and lost it at original Tinkerbell. But anyways, you know, he's able to knock out my Prince as well as my Ariel, putting me in a pretty bad spot. And once again, he's building board. He's kind of really running away with this game at this point. And in fact, he's going to clear my board just to make sure that even though I'm at 10, I don't really have a way to get, you know, that kind of engine running with that Ariel knocked out. So kind of in a bad spot now. Look at how many characters he has. He's producing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lore per turn, and I have to rebuild. So I did have another Ariel, which is a good sign. So, and I can do a Cinderella and loot to try and draw some items, but it's really just gonna, you know, it's gonna be on whether or not he has another removal spell, another removal action or song, because he can very easily strength the Raging Fire that Ariel off the board. He's going to play his own Ariel, Spectacular Singer, and dig, dig, dig. Let's see what he gets. I think he's going to whiff here. Yeah, he in fact whiffs. So that's a good sign for me, at least. And then he's going to play a Benja and pop the Popsicle, which is fine. You don't really need the Popsicle at this point. It would be nice if I had it would be bad if I had a Hiram. But he's going to set himself up to be on the edge of winning. I think he has 11 lore on board now with that Benja and that Ariel. So he can win next turn. So really, you know, at this point, you know, I'm going to play my Eye of Fates and ready up and quest. And I'm going to do a little bit of action here, going to 13 lore, playing a Popsicle. So I did, in fact, have some action here. So, and then we're going to need a challenge, because he has exactly 11 lore on board. So I have to knock out the Simba. And then I'm playing an item and ready up Ariel. And so here I'm thinking about, well, you know, I'm going to try and knock out another item to buy myself more time. I think that might have been a mistake, because 14 is the premium number to be at. Because like I said in my deck tech, Ariel can make 6 lore on her own very easily. So I think I made a mistake there by using that. I mean, it didn't matter if he went to 19 or 18 lore. He's still on 2 turns to win. So sacrificing that Cinderella to knock out one more character was probably not worth it. I should have just quested with her, to be honest. Should have went to 14 lore. We'll see here. Well, it doesn't matter because he drew another Benja and he knocks out that Eye of Fates. So my probability of generating 6 lore next turn just went from like, you know, 60, 70% to like 10% because he knocked out that Eye of Fates. It's going to be really hard for me to do 6 lore in one turn. It's basically impossible for me to do 7 lore in one turn at this point. But had that Eye of Fates survived, I had a decent chance of winning the game. But that last Benja is going to break my back here. So I'm just going to play out the turn, even though I know that the writing's on the wall here. Even with Hiram drawing me some extra cards, I just don't have the ink I need to generate that much lore in one turn. Not without the Eye of Fates. So it was a close game here. I think I'm just going to play it out and just show that there was enough action there with Eye of Fates to maybe have won the game. Actually, I think I would have fallen short because of that, what I said about the Cinderella. I would have reached 19 lore, even with Eye of Fates questing multiple times. I would have reached 19 lore, which would have been a play mistake. But it didn't matter because in the end, Benja rules the game. So that's going to be a wrap. This will be a tag on to the An-Noi deck tech. I feel like the deck is still pretty good. And this is one of those matches where I took what had happened back and I said, okay, well, I'm going to do some edits. Anyways, if you guys enjoyed this, be sure to let me know. I'm going to keep working on more deck techs that we're working on. I'm going to do more themed deck techs and we'll keep working on it. So for more Lorcana content, like and follow Lorcana University.